Beyond Being You, an SPH Productions presentation. My name is Shane Hodges, licensed professional counselor and author of It's Time to Be You, How to Become Your Most Authentic Self. My guest today is Rex Fuller. Thank you for being here, Rex. Our first segment is called I'm Just Me. It's a rapid-fire Q&A where you and I will each get 30 seconds to ask as many quick answer questions as possible. I will go first today. So whenever you're ready, we'll know.
Ready.
All right. See what we come up with. Do you believe in ghosts?
Kinda.
Okay. Which golden girl are you?
I want to be Rose, but I'm probably Dorothy.
Are you on time or late?
I'm on time.
Dream vacation spot.
We make Tuscany.
Okay. Where would you prefer to retire?
Tuscany wouldn't be bad. But I think probably I would love to hear said we were friends.
Okay. Who was your first male crush?
Captain Kirk and Star Trek.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. We got through about 7, I think. Now you get to go. Again, nothing's off limit. So I'll be interested to see what you ask. Are we ready?
Sure. I thought I could start with the classic. Boxers or briefs?
Oh, briefs.
Oh, I'd kind of guess. Favorite place you've traveled?
Ooh. Puerto Vallarta's one that we'll go back to often. I really like that. I love the beach, but also Greece.
Where do you still want to travel?
Lots of places in Europe.
Okay. All there. Was there a movie that freaked you out as a kid?
Ooh. My mom and I loved watching horror movies together. One that kind of freaked me out was Correct. Yeah. Fighters.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your favorite uppers?
Popeye's chicken.
Careful.
So, all right. That was just over 30 seconds. Learn anything exciting?
The Popeye's chicken was kind of a surprise.
I love it. I love French. No one's as good as my mom. Our next segment is called What's Your Do? This is where we learn a little bit more about what you've done in your life. So my first question is, what do you consider your first real job as an adult?
I think probably when I got assistant to the marketing director job at Teachers to the Opera back in the early 90s. And that was something I worked really hard at and really hard to get. And it led to a lot of other work that I did. That's probably.
Do you enjoy opera? Were you in opera?
Well, in school, I was a theater major.
Okay.
So I enjoyed performance and performing arts. I was school up in Greeley where they had a really active opera program. So I wasn't really performing with opera, but I saw quite a bit of it there and worked on it at some points. So I appreciate it. I don't think that I was ever a huge. There are people who are just geek out nerd fans of opera, and I don't think I ever qualified for that. But I certainly have seen some performances over the years that really moved and affected me, and there's some that are really big favorites of mine. They've been favorite places I've seen opera. I worked at Central City Opera for a couple of years, but really I worked at Alto Colorado for about 10 years.
Oh, what?
Okay. So I think over that period of time, I learned quite a bit and grew a lot of my appreciation.
So I have to ask, as a theater major, is there a dream role, whether it's part of an opera or otherwise, that you would love to play?
Well, years ago, I really did sort of do that, and it's one of the places that ties me what I've done lately and what I used to do. Because I did used to do a lot of performance, and there's a play called The Normal Howard about the early days of the crisis, and the main character's name is Ned. I did that at you, and actually with another really close friend at the time. And, that had a huge impact on me. Doing that role actually was what made me come out to my family. Oh, wow. Because they didn't feel like I could go on stage and scream at everybody that had to be out and lock me out myself. Led to a lot of years of activism around the AIDS issue.
How old were you, if I may ask?
I was 425. It's hard to remember that far back. It was a long time ago. But it had a huge influence. I can imagine.
As a gay man in your 60s, correct? What, if any, challenges have you experienced in regard to career?
Well, I think that's part of the reason that I gravitated towards left hurt and nonprofit work. It's been much more forgiving and welcoming. For several years before I got serious about looking at the worked in retail. So, I think I found a lot of friendly environments to work in and to feel welcome in. I still think there sometimes concerns, like some of the time when I was probably involved in a little bit more radical politics around the AIDS crisis. I think sometimes that might have provided some challenges in my job. Understandable. At the time, but I wasn't really working in a place where I was forced to because if it helped me.
Well, in your most recent role, you were the CEO of the Terrible Fact. Within that role, what are you most proud of?
Before I became CEO, I was working on producing Pride Fest. Everything that was happening around that. I was very proud of the work that we did and the growth that we saw and some of the new individuals that we were able to put together. So that made me really proud. And as it's become public knowledge that I'm leading the center, some of those longtime volunteers have said some incredibly kind things that I'm really, really grateful for. And just because that was really wonderful this year. We recently put together a strategic plan for the center, which still has a couple of years to go on it. But I was really proud of the work on that. I felt like we did some good work there. As CEO or out there, one of my big challenges was that shortly after I became CEO was when the world really started affecting us. We were close to public programming for a little more than a year. And that was really hard. And that was really, really hard. But we got through it. And we got through it. I mean, it's really healthy. And, that was the year that we've been doing an in-person Pride, which huge trauma. And I at the time thinking, oh, great, I got this job. And now my role is going to be to shut down the center. But that's not what happened. So I'm proud of that.
Very good. And you've been in the role how long?
I was at the center for 11 years and I was in this commuter role flower.
That's great. As you do look forward in terms of transition, what would you like the next chapter of your career to look like?
I'd like to continue working in nonprofit work. I've dedicated a lot of time to that, so I think that would be good. I'm looking at the possibility of roles that might combine love for performing arts and LGBT activism. So that would be really rewarding.
Next segment is, who are you? So, I'm going to get a little bit more personal in my questions. If you were putting together a short bio, how would you describe yourself?
Oh, good Lord. That's a sort of hard question. Maybe the most charitable way to describe myself is someone who tries best. I wouldn't always succeed, but do my best.
I think that applies to many of us, and I think that's the most we can ask for ourselves. One of the things that I've had the pleasure of experiencing is your cooking and baking. I'm wondering, how did you get into that?
Before all the nonprofit work and former guides work, we're well known to store. And had a very good friend there, named Marilyn. She's a very interesting person in overall. And she's very much dedicated to feminist principles. She's something I really admire. And she was very dedicated and fascinated by the work of Julia Child. So she introduced me to the books, Ministering the Art of French Cooking. We sort of did a lot of experimenting together. The store was the sort of place where you could cook something at home and bring it in, and everybody would talk about it and be into it and how the, so I did that quite a bit. And that's kind of what led to it. And just had enjoyed over the years challenging myself with what can I cook? How can I cook it? How can I do it better? And that sort of thing.
Very nice. Have you ever done a recipe that flopped or that you just will never do again?
Oh gosh, yeah.
So more than one.
I've sort of blocked those out of the
Best.
like this was too long ago. You know those little macaron cookies?
Yeah.
Those are really, really hard. They're really, really hard. And man, I tried following that recipe and I just was like following every little direction and do it. I mean, just as carefully as I could possibly do. And then I opened the oven and I'm supposed to like a giant beef blob of the cheese through. Well,
All just like congealed together.
110% failure. It was absolutely not worthless.
Well, I'd like to add, I and you have been around long enough to see a lot of change in the LGBTQ community. I would like to hear some of your thoughts on the evolution and changes that you have seen in your lifetime and what stands out.
I kind of knew you were going to ask something like this, so I've sort of been thinking about it. I sort of feel like me in particular, I feel like I'm part of kind of an in-between generation. Because when I was growing up in the 70s, like that was the age of disco, right? You know, I mean, like that was really when the gay community was finding itself, was coming out, was extremely visible, was really out there. And so then when I came up, all of a sudden, that's when the scourge of AIDS came rolling. And a lot of people, myself included, were really operating out of fear from them. So I think happily, you know, there's been a lot of advancements on prevention and treatment, and that's wonderful. And I think that sexuality has really evolved for a lot of people, even in the last 10, 15 years. I think a lot has really changed for people. And that it's kind of a return to some of that goodness that way were in those early days. I guess I would sort of bring out that I was raised in a pretty religious household that raised with a lot of judgment around those issues. So I've always felt pulled between wanting to go join the party and I want to be a good boy that, you know, people will approve of me. And it's been a big challenge. It really has been a big challenge. And I think that even at my advanced age, you know, 51, but 148 in a year, I think that I'm still trying to work through some of that and grow into that so that I really do feel like it can be true to myself.
I appreciate you saying that. One of the things I talk about with my clients and in the book is the aspect that the journey of self-discovery is ongoing. It doesn't end. So I want to go backward and ask, if you were 8, what would you say to your 15-year-old self?
Don't worry so much about being a good boy.
Why would that be your advice?
Well, I think that I just lived with a lot of fear. I mean, you know, working at that, or now you're seeing this 12-year-old coming out,
Yeah.
and they're, have all, and I was just like, I couldn't even feel that.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been worried less about that. I think I was had a different life.
I just realized, I'm not sure if I asked you this before. Where did you grow up?
Up in northern Colorado, I'm in this little tiny town called Lucerne, 4 miles north of Greeley, 3 miles south of Greeley, 10 miles east of Windsor.
How many people?
At the time, it was about 100.
100 people, not 100,000. Like
100 people.
Yeah. So
And
similar.
then my mother would refer to it as a wide spot in the road. There was a trench stop and a grain elevator. Very, very rural.
This brings us to our final segment of the show, which I call the WOW segment. Words of wisdom. What words of wisdom would you like to share with the LGBTQ community or otherwise around being authentic?
I'm not sure that I have much wisdom to offer in that direction. I feel like maybe they have more wisdom to offer me. I've commented that I have struggled in my life with being a good boy. I think that allowing myself to learn from other people is probably more important right now than what wisdom I have to offer. My mom died about 11 years ago, but this was not long before she died. I was trying to decide what I should do and if this was going to be the right decision or that was going to be the right decision or not. And I was struggling and told her that my mother was somebody who I felt was always sacrificing herself. She was not necessarily putting herself first. And then I think that it took after her death. So I'm struggling with this decision on that. Talk to you on the phone. And she just burst out. She goes, "Oh, honey, you would take care of yourself first because no one else can." And I'm so gobsmacked by that. I still feel as though I'm not very good at that. But that's probably the best words of wisdom from that perspective that I can offer.
I appreciate the story and I can relate and I understand the sort of oddness of someone you see as not taking care of themselves having that advice. I also very much appreciate the aspect of I can learn from others. As a therapist who has worked with younger individuals pretty much the entire time I'm doing this, I'm constantly learning. They keep me updated on certain things that I otherwise wouldn't know. So I appreciate that perspective as well. I want to say thank you very much for doing this with me and taking the time. It is always a pleasure time with you, and I learned so many things today, which is part of why I'm doing this. Thank you all for joining us. Remember, be yourself, even if that isn't being a good boy. Be authentic and check out my book, It's Time to Be You, How to Become Your Most Authentic Self. Have a great day, everybody.